Welcome to True Crime Capital. This week's case looks at the disappearance of a young mother and a DNA from a tree that revealed the truth about what happened to her. This is the story of Mengqi Ji. Born April the 10th, 1991, in Xi'an, China. Her parents are Karen and Xiaolun Ji. She was described as intelligent and full of life. Her interests were painting and photography. She also played the Yahoo. She started learning English in elementary school. She began showing signs of independence at an early age, but throughout her life she remained very close to her parents. She attended the East China University of Science and Technology in Shanghai, earning her a bachelor degree in engineering. She decided to go to the USA to complete her master's degree. Her parents were in support of this decision to further her studies in the USA, as they believed that the qualification from the US carries high value in China. After immigrating from China to further her studies, Mengqi Ji earned a master's degree in mechanical and aerospace engineering from the University of Missouri. After graduating, she landed a job with a company called Nanova, which makes dental products. She was working as a materials engineer. This is where she met Joseph Elledge. He was working part-time as an intern and Mengqi was his supervisor. They met in September 2015, however their first date was in January 2016. The two fell hard and fast for each other. They later traveled to China and Jo asked Mengqi's parents for her hand in marriage. On September 8, 2017, Jo proposed while on a hike in Rockbridge Memorial State Park. After a short engagement, Jo and Mengqi were married on September 22, 2017. Shortly after, Mengqi found out that she was pregnant. They were both overjoyed. On October 3, 2018, baby Anna Elledge was born. Shortly after Anna was born, the couple found themselves constantly arguing. Mengqi's parents traveled from China to help care for their granddaughter, but their presence only increased tension between Jo and Mengqi. There are some sources on the internet that state that it was only Mengqi's mother that traveled alone to help Mengqi with the baby, and that her father was left behind. Some sources say both parents did. This is the Chinese tradition for a mother to move in with her daughter to help her take care of a baby while the new mother recovers. This is practiced mostly with the first child, and this practice is also common amongst most Africans as well. Mengqi made the decision to quit her job to become a stay-at-home mom, a role she thoroughly enjoyed and was said to be good at. However, she decided to work in the evenings as a translator to alleviate the financial pressures from her husband. It was reported that Karen would often interfere with Jo trying to take care of Anna. And what seemed to set him off the most was Mengqi and Karen constantly speaking Chinese in his presence, and he felt left out of the conversations to the extent that he started to wonder if they were gossiping about him right in his presence, which made him feel foolish but mainly offended. He addressed the matter with Mengqi, but nothing changed. But in my opinion, I suspect that Karen spoke limited English, or she couldn't speak English at all. I say this because in most interviews that I've seen, she's always expressing herself in Chinese, which makes me wonder, if Jo was aware of this, then it makes it unreasonable for him to expect otherwise. How else would they conversate? But of course, this caused further tension in Jo and Mengqi's relationship. By October 2018, Karen was using a cutting board in a way Jo didn't like, and used this incident to blow the matter out of proportion, and insisted that he wanted Karen to immediately move out of his house. And indeed, Karen booked the earliest flight back to China. After this incident, it seemed things between Mengqi and Jo were improving. Mengqi and Karen's relationship was not affected at all by this incident. They continue to be close as they always have been, and continue to communicate on a daily basis, sometimes up to 2 to 3 times per day. But once again, they started bickering and constantly fighting as they did before, maybe even worse this time around. Of course, Mengqi kept her mother in the loop of what was going on in her relationship. On October 9, 2019, Karen had not heard from Mengqi all day, and text had gone unanswered, which was rather odd, because they literally spoke up to 3 times a day. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was not right. October 10th came, and still there were no responses from Mengqi, which made Karen more worried about her daughter. She couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was wrong. She then contacted one of Mengqi's friends to go check up on her at her house. The friend arrived at the house. She asked Jo where Mengqi was, and he told her that she had disappeared and he didn't know where she was. It was only around 3 p.m. on the same day that Jo decided to report his wife missing. However, Jo did not call 911. He called the non-emergency 311 instead. He told the officers that he last saw Mengqi at 11 p.m. on October 8th. which was 2 days prior to this report being made. He said that they had had an argument before he went to bed, and he woke up at 5 a.m. on October the 9th to his daughter crying, and that he realized that Mengqi was not there. He told officers that he last saw Mengqi at 11 p.m. on October the 8th, which was 2 days prior to this report being made. He said that they had an argument before he went to bed, and he woke up at 5 a.m. on October the 9th to his daughter crying, and that's when he realized that Mengqi was not there. However, he realized that her phone, passport, car keys, cell phones, wallet, and other personal belongings were still in the house. He said that he assumed that she had gone for a jog or something, and said that he attended to Anna and went back to bed. He said that he did not report her as missing because he thought that she was still upset over the fight that they had and that maybe she went to a friend's house to cool off. In providing the details of the night in question, Joe says on the night of October the 8th, he approached Mengqi to give her a massage and initiate intimacy. However, according to Joe, Mengqi rebuffed his advances, claiming she had plans the next day. She went to bed around 11 p.m., and this was the context of their arguments. And the police officers thought this is a normal married couple's argument, but how can this end up with the wife missing the next day? Joe Elledge gave an interview to CBS. He said he needed his wife to return home safely, and that he and his daughter love her. He also implied that Mengqi may have run off with another man, stating, quote, "I hope that she's at least with somebody who cares for her, enough to keep her safe," close quote. That same day, Joe also voluntarily sat down for an extensive interview with Columbia Police Department. Investigators soon became suspicious of his story, especially after Joe described going for long leisurely drives to look for new hiking paths instead of searching for his missing wife.
So talk to me about who she is, why you fell in love with her.
Well, she's a very dedicated person. She's a hard worker, and I really like that. That's important to me. And she's really, she's very, very detail-oriented, and that's something that I honestly didn't see a lot in a lot of people and really a lot of girls as well. But she was, she's a mechanical engineer with me, or same as I am, and that was something that was pretty important to me too, because I really kind of always thought that I'd have sort of my own business and maybe have a car shop or something, and I thought that she would be helpful in that. I thought that she would be a part of that, and I told her that whenever we first started dating, and I think that she kind of liked the idea of it. She really likes the idea of working hard and making money, so there was a lot of stuff about her that really made me feel like that she was just a great person to have around.
So talk to me about the baby, kind of like what that was like for her, for the mom, and what it was like for you getting married and becoming a parent.
Yeah, so first off, she was really tough about everything. She carried her baby around for 9 months and didn't complain about it, and she just took everything like, it was going to happen. There's really nothing to change it, so she just went along with it, and that was something that really impressed me as well. She was a great mother the whole way, and even the night that I took her to the hospital, like the song that I first met her was playing when I first met her, and it was just an amazing night. And Anna came out, and she was, she held her for the first time, and it was just a really amazing feeling. And ever since then, she's been a great mom, like the best mom ever, and she takes care of Anna like, I don't know, like nothing I ever knew would happen. And it amazes me, because especially now, sometimes when I take care of Anna by myself, it's hard. It's really kind of stressful and exhausting. And I just thought about how she did it every day, and I'm just amazed at how she did that. But she was a tough girl, and I really miss her, and I need her back. So.
Talk to me about that night that she left. Like, what was that? Was there anything unusual? Like, was she just normal? Are you surprised? Like, just talk to me about it.
I am surprised. We were kind of growing distant in the past few months, and especially we went to Carthage for an internship over the summer, and I don't know how she liked that. She always kind of stayed inside by herself anyway, and I encouraged her to go outside and meet people and do stuff with Anna, and even go out with me whenever I was home, and she just never really wanted to do that kind of stuff, which I don't blame her for it, but that was kind of weird to me that she didn't want to go outside a whole lot. but yeah, I guess she was just always kind of a reserved person, and sometimes she didn't talk to me a lot about what was going on in her life, but I always tried to open up to her, and always tried to get her to open up to me. I gave her every opportunity that I could, and so yeah, it's just right now it's really confusing. Everything is very, very cloudy. I just don't know what's going on. I don't know what to think. I'm really confused, and I just think that she is too, and I don't know. I think she'll come back, but I just don't know. I don't know where she's been. I hope she's safe. And
how do you feel knowing that she left behind like her passport and everything? And if you don't mind, I'm going to turn on this light. You don't have to look at it. It's going to be really bright.
Okay.
Or wait. No, and I can't because there are no batteries.
Oh.
that is fine.
Do you need batteries?
Oh no, this is not like a regular like battery type thing.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
We'll be fine.
Okay.
I can always brighten this up. Yeah, but
Okay.
you're good.
Okay.
So reason maybe because you thought that she, like it wasn't unusual for her to leave. Any reason why from when you realized that she was gone till 5:45 that you called? Like was it just, did you just think that she would come back? Maybe she went out for some space.
Yeah, I really didn't know where she could have gone. She was supposed to meet somebody in the morning, and I didn't know who else she was going to meet, what else she was going to do. It was really weird that she didn't take her phone and everything like that, but I don't know, all that stuff. So of course I wasn't able to contact her, and even though I tried at the end of the night, but I just don't know. I really don't know.
Now, as far as her family, how's her family doing? We saw them today.
Her mom and dad, you mean? Or, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure her family is just as scared as, and scared and worried as I am, and as my mom is, and as my family. And I totally understand that they're sad and they're angry, and so am I. And I wish I could just go out and be interrogating people all day and all night, but I think that's something that the cops are going to do, and I think they're doing it really well. They're going to find her, I know. So
you said anger. Where does that anger come from, do you think?
I don't know, just the fact that she's missing and that nobody knows anything. It's just the absence of knowledge really kind of makes you want to know, and there's just no way to know. It's just,
if you had anything, if she's watching this, what do you want her to know?
If she's watching, I want her to know that I love her and that Anna loves her too. Anna needs to see her mom. She really needs to see her mom, and Anna's growing up really well, and she's learning to wave and she's learning to talk. So I think she'd be really happy if she came back here, and I can try and be a better husband. I don't know if I didn't talk enough to her, give her enough hugs or what, but I'll give her 10 times as much as what I did before. So.
Now, as far as you saying that she was distant and maybe the last few months, was she like that when you met her, or was that just a change?
That was just a change, and I don't know where it came from, really. She kind of started being distant at the beginning of the summer. I'd give her kisses and I'd give her hugs, and she wouldn't kiss me back, and she wouldn't hug me back, and she didn't want to hold my hand and stuff, but I think she kind of tried to sometimes. I don't know if she was just too busy or worried about whatever, worried about Anna, but I don't know why she didn't want to keep love alive with me. I tried, but I really don't know where any of that came from, and I think she was just confused, and I am too. I think if we talked, though, we could really work stuff out.
Do you think, do you have any idea as to where she'd be?
I have absolutely no idea where she might be. It's just all so strange. She just disappeared. I don't know. I just really don't know. She hasn't contacted anybody. She talked to her mom, I think, probably 2 or 3 times every single day, and the fact that she hasn't heard from her really worries me. It's very surprising. It's just hard to think about what's going on.
From this interview, one of the red flags you can pick up is that he keeps referring to her in the past tense. And this grin on his face is rather disturbing. I mean, your wife is missing, but you are here smiling on TV. I know people react differently to situations. And there are people that say they laugh or smile when they are nervous. But I just found his behavior to be chilling. The news of Mengqi was of great concern to the community, and it was all that everybody was talking about, to an extent that in October, a witness contacted the police and reported that Mengqi had confided in her that she suspects that Joe was abusing Anna. She said that Mengqi said that she noticed purple and yellow bruises on Anna's buttocks and legs. The witness submitted photos and videos of the bruises to the police, and it was obvious to the police that these bruises were not accidental and could have been caused intentionally. By October the 25th, police did arrest Joe on suspicion of child abuse. His bail was set at $500,000. When confronted with the bruises, he said that he had no idea how the bruises came about and that he had never seen them before. But after being interrogated for hours, he eventually admitted that the bruises were as a result of Anna crying too much, and he had pinched her and held her too tight to get her to stop crying. The same day that Joe was interviewed at the police station, investigators asked to see his cell phone. On it, they discovered 10 hours of secretly recorded arguments between Joe and Mengqi. Joe got defensive in some of the recordings. In one recording, he was recorded as saying, "What are you trying to do? Seriously, are you trying to, get the baby away? Are you trying to make me go crazy so that you can call the police on me to take my baby away from me?" Close quote. The child abuse charge, together with the recording found on his phone, enabled officers to get a search warrant for his apartment. And the officers found a lot of evidence to work on. Firstly, they found a journal that Joe kept to record his thoughts and feelings. There were lots of complaints about Mengqi being withdrawn, not showing the interest to work on their marriage, and that she had more of a relationship with her mother than she had with him. He wrote about his frustrations with his wife talking to their daughter in Chinese and less in English. He recorded that this bothered him because he felt that his child will have difficulties learning English if it was not taught by her mother as a language of preference. He also included a schedule of account for every day that Mengqi was missing, and how to speak to the media now that Mengqi is missing. He wrote, open quote, "Refuse to answer any speculations. There's only two emotions that the public will relate to, sadness and sorrow," which is rather contradicting from the interview we watched because he had a smile on his face the entire time. He also wrote that he will respond with a face, "What does this have to do with my missing wife?" He then wrote a note to himself to avoid talking to her in the past tense. Again, from the interview we watched, he failed to follow his own instructions. One of the most important pieces of evidence that the police found was a pair of boots that were covered in mud. Later, officers were able to recover nearly 4.5 additional hours of recordings from Mengqi's phone. In these recordings, Joe can be heard telling Mengqi, "You think you're so empowered because of this society? Well, don't forget that nature exists. You are still a woman." What a prick. The Colombia Police Department announced that they were opening a criminal investigation into Mengqi's disappearance. After analyzing cell tower data, investigators discovered that on the day he says his wife disappeared, Joe visited the Lamine River, about 40 minutes away from the couple's home. Joe hadn't mentioned this to the police, so officers became suspicious that perhaps the river had something to do with Mengqi's disappearance. Highway Patrol did a surface search at the Lamine River hoping to find clues. It was the first of many searches there, which included dive teams and cadaver dogs, but nothing was ever found. On October the 30th, 2019, Joe's mother filed for guardianship for her granddaughter. Just days later, Mengqi's parents filed the same. Karen and Xiaolun Ji got temporary custody of Anna in December 2019, but had to relinquish that to Joe's mother when they returned to China. The custody case is not fully resolved and it is still ongoing. In the interim, the baby lives with Joe's mother until the custody case is resolved. On February the 19th, 2020, despite not being able to locate Mengqi, then-Bern County Prosecutor Dan Knight decided to file first-degree murder charges against Joe for the death of his wife. The decision was taken considering the following factors. No, or rather few mothers will leave their 1-year-old daughter and disappear without checking on her well-being. Mengqi's close relationship with her parents was also a factor worth noting. It was definitely out of character for her to not contact them at all. Joe has said that on the night he had given Mengqi a massage, charge. With a lack of evidence for blood and no defense wounds, officers contemplated that he might have strangled her. Also, him taking drugs to the Lamine River on the night of his wife's disappearance, together with him waiting for 2 days to report her missing, everything just did not add up. Even though the evidence was purely circumstantial, prosecutors believed that they had a viable case. On February the 22nd, 2020, after months of searching for Mengqi, authorities still couldn't find her. Mengqi's mother attended a memorial vigil in her honor at the Lamine River. On the 25th March 2021, 17 months after Mengqi's disappearance, a hiker walking at the Rock Bridge Memorial State Park explained that he had stumbled on something rectangular like a pillow. He says that he inspected this closer and realized this is actually bones. He grabbed a stick to flip them over and realized that they were human skeletal remains. Police were notified and they arrived shortly after. Due to the extended decomposition of the remains, they were difficult to identify. However, a driver's license and a bank card of Mengqi were found at the scene. Through dental records, the remains were confirmed to be Mengqi Ji. This was the same park where Jo had proposed to Mengqi. As much as it was devastating for her parents, finding her body made the prosecutor's case much stronger. Rockbridge Memorial State Park was reported not to have the best cell service, and that is why it did not show on Jo's cell phone records, and hence the area was not looked into. And it was believed that Jo traveled to different locations, including the Lamine River, to throw the investigators off. The postmortem revealed that Mengqi was found with 4 fractured ribs. The examiner says that the injuries were as a result of blunt force, and the cause of death was concluded to be subdural hematoma. A subdural hematoma is usually caused by a head injury strong enough to burst a blood vessel, an injury that the prosecutor Dan Knight believes shows that she was killed with a violent confrontation. Remember the muddy boots that the officers had collected from Jo and Mengqi's apartment? Plant population geneticist Christine Edwards and her team at the Missouri Botanical Garden were asked to compare plant DNA recovered from those muddy boots to plant samples recovered from the juniper trees next to where Mengqi's remains were found. The prosecution said DNA from a tree hanging over Mengqi's burial site matches the samples from the boots, ultimately linking Jo to the exact location. Once they found the match, the prosecutors were convinced that he indeed buried his own wife under that tree. On November 2nd, 2021, faced with the fact that Jo was now placed at the scene of Mengqi's burial site, Jo's defense attorney Scott Rosenblum presented a new story at trial. He argued that Jo did in fact kill his wife, but it was a tragic accident. Rosenblum said the couple got into an argument and began shoving one another. He claimed when Jo shoved his wife, she fell backwards and Jo heard a thud. After she told him to leave her alone, Jo claimed he went for a walk and Mengqi went to bed. The next morning, Rosenblum said Jo woke up at 5 a.m., had his baby crying and found his wife dead. He was in a dissociated state of denial, said Rosenblum. Panicking, the attorney said Jo decided not to call 911 and later buried his wife. Once he went down that rabbit hole, he chose to continue down that path, he said about his client's lies to Columbia police. After opening statements, prosecutor Dan Knight played those secret audio recordings between Jo and Mengqi, showing them arguing, including Jo telling Mengqi she was brainless. These recordings helped to establish a motive. It was a calculated effort on his part to bring her under his control, Knight said. Knight believes that when Jo couldn't control Mengqi, he decided he wanted her gone, knowing that if he would have gone the divorce route, he stood a higher chance of not getting custody of his daughter. And that is the main reason why he killed her. Between the 9th to the 10th of November 2021, Jo alleged spent 2 days on the witness stand. Then Knight questioned Jo for nearly 3 hours to pinpoint the cause of death. Knight asked, "You killed Mengqi on that bed, didn't you?" "No," Jo replied. Knight also asked if he stood on top of her back and jumped on her or suffocated her. Jo also replied no to all of those questions. Jo reiterated that Mengqi's death was an accident. After a 10-day trial, both sides delivered closing arguments. Defense attorney Scott Rosenblum reiterated that it was all a tragic accident and argued for manslaughter. Dan, on the other side, argued that Mengqi's death was premeditated and asked for first-degree murder. Neither side got what they wanted. The jury found Jo alleged guilty of second-degree murder, meaning that they didn't see Mengqi's murder as premeditated. The The jury then recommended a sentence of 28 years in prison. Prosecutor Dan Knight believes the sentence may signify a year of prison time for each year of Mengqi's life. Joe was 26 at the time of his sentencing. Months after his manslaughter sentencing, Joe was given an additional 10 years for child abuse regarding his daughter Anna. It is said that he will serve the 10 years prior to completing the manslaughter sentence. Mengqi's family remember her as artistic, smart, and kind, and say she will be missed deeply by all who knew her. In her short 28 years of life, she was a bright light with a kind soul and enjoyed her deep love for her Chinese culture and her family. It is my wish that both grandparents can mend their relationship so that Anna can have both of them in her life. This was such a tragic case, and I will wrap it up here. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. Let's meet again next week.